So thank you so much. I would like to welcome you to the roundtable. To my left, Mr. Kasper. Mr. Kasper is Empowerment Officer for the East Holstein group. Then we have Ms. Goldmann-Mahr next to Mr. Kasper. She comes from the education sector, from Lebenshilfe Helmstedt, Wolfenbuettel. Then Mr. Rink, you have heard him presenting, so I don't need to introduce him. And here I have Ms. Metzlaff. She comes from Lebenshilfe Peinle, from the education sector. And then Ms. Philipp. Ms. Philipp also she comes from Lebenshilfe Peine Burgdorf, from the sheltered workshop. My colleague, Dr. Frankenstein, I don't need to introduce her again. Thank you for being available to us, and thank you for talking to a couple of questions. First, may I ask Ms. Frankenstein, the picture you see in the presentation comes from the sheltered workshop day in Saarbrücken. Please tell us about it. Yes, I will. So, unfortunately, we are not completely without barriers, but we had the possibility on the 1st of June to go to the Sheltered Workshop Day in Saarbrücken, and we introduced the project there. And it was actually without any barriers. You see the two sign language interpreters, and we had two interpreters interpreting into plain language. The Sheltered Workshops Day is the federal conference of the Federal Association for Sheltered Workshops for Disabled, for people with disabilities. It's the most important exchange forum for people with disabilities, and happens every 4 years. And this year it happened in Saarbrücken. Topic was digitalization. Going new ways was the motto. And by the way, there was also an exhibition, and in the exhibition DDAP was presenting itself from GDW. Our presentation was met with a lot of interest. It was sold out, actually. We had more than 200 people in the audience, and a large part of the audience came from our target group, which was really pretty good. And people were very interested, and lots of questions came up. That's just something which I wanted to tell you about. And I have an important participant who I forgot to present, Mr. Schulz. I need to introduce him. He comes to us over the internet. He's one of the participants from Lebenshilfe Peine Burgdorf. So the first question that I have is, what is your experience with digital education programs and also with diBa? And first of all, I would like to ask this question to the participants. So, Mr. Schulz, what's your experience? How was it? Well, I've done it. It was a program for people with disabilities. And I work in a company. And pictures are very helpful, images are very helpful. What was the most important experience to you? What was most important to you? What would you say? Most important really were the images, the pictures, because, you know, people who cannot read can hear what is being explained. So visualizations, so the pictures were giving you the explanation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to you, Mr. Schulz. So from your point of view of the professionals here, what would you say? What is your experience? What do you think is most important? So first of all, I think it's interesting that we were able to be made aware of digital training, because in our sheltered workshop it was not usually done, and handling tablets and headsets, that was quite exciting for us. We got to know it in the context of a research lab with Ostfalia University, where 2 students accompanying us. It was a great time and great experience. I can say the same. In our workshop, we did not have any programs using digital media, and Ostfalia gave us tablets, which of course is always a cost issue. We have sheltered workshop and housing, and we get the people to accompany people while they work and in their homes, but for digital offers, there's not so much money there. So it was great that we received the money for it. What was very impressive for me is we had a mixed group, people with mental disabilities, people who can't read and write. And we have talked a lot about social media, and the offers that they were able to use was very good. And we saw that they became fitter and more independent. The tablets were switched on by them on their own, and they worked on their own, and only when there were questions did I support them, and it went pretty quickly. This was one question sheet I would ask, question to barriers and difficulties. So one would assume that people with different disabilities, different ways of access. So you said it wasn't that difficult, right? So let me ask to the other side of the room here. So what barriers, what difficulties did you have? Well, it was the framework conditions. We had to deal with them, that we actually got Wi-Fi. And with our institutions, we're fortunate. We had a couple of tablets ourselves. Still, we were very grateful to got even more tablets through the project team. And in particular, creating a user account, there were a couple of barriers to that. We needed to help, that is, we, the professionals. But I agree to you, over time we saw just how good people were able to deal with it, and it worked quite well, so that at the end of the project, hardly any support by professionals was needed as regards the platform. I have also noticed that what happened, what Mr. Rinke said, when it's about the usage of internet, getting information outside of the platform, then more support by professionals is necessary. Well, it's really access, user access. It's difficult for colleagues to get in there because the steps, that's really difficult. Even I had problems, and I know the internet quite well. But in the future, this is probably getting simpler. Maybe colleagues can just scan a QR code or have an easier access. Maybe you would have to integrate it in a better way into the area of work, because there it's still difficult to do it. And the tasks that are to be handled in the area of work are mainly in production and not so much on these things. So, further integration into the world of work would be good. Right, so I see technical obstacles. Application seems to work well once you're registered, once it's up and running. What about linking this to the work people have? So there seems to be 2 things. On the one hand, digital. On the other hand, the work in the sheltered workshops. How could such barriers be overcome? How could you link it in a better way? Do you have any ideas how to do it? Well, with me, I come from the education area, and in the education, vocational education, we integrate it quite well, because we simply have the time for it. But in the world of work, when production needs to be focused on, it's difficult. Of course, you can also offer it as a program at the side of the work. That's a nice thing, because then it would be voluntarily done. And I think that's really important when it comes to education, that it's done voluntarily. And in our company, what we did is we have a course system for our employees. We have a brochure in plain language where individual offers are being made. Education program, I have offered a course, a DDAP course, at a certain point of time. I have it for a limited point of time so that many people can participate in it. So set up such classes in the sheltered workshops. It would be good because you had to have the time to do that. We have thought about doing that as classes that we would offer at the side of the work. And I also come from education, and we have better possibilities to integrate it. We can do initial instructions when people are instructed to do their jobs, like sweeping the floor, for example. You can actually also add a digital learning or educational unit, initial instruction on fire protection and health and safety. Something like this could be integrated into the work in workshops, but it takes time to point out to people that they need to learn how to handle things safely and that it becomes something normal to include tablets in the work so that professionals also have time for other things. And that would mean less burden for professionals. Yes. So Dr. Frankenstein had talked about three things. The one was the employer side. Employers who said you need media competences, digital competences. Your experience in DBA, have you shown that competencies are being created that you believe the labor market needs? If you take a look at it from the point of view of the employers, does it make access easier? You said it's one of the dimensions, and information was, yes, we need digital skills. So what's your idea? Talking from the practical side of things, do you think that skills were built up because of the DBA program, or do you need something else? Well, I believe to this end it needs time. People need to be able to handle things safely through various digital media, not just through the tablet, but through the computer. There are lots of other things coming. How do you operate it depending on the supplier? There are differences. The Samsung tablet needs to be handled differently compared to an iPad. So you need a more long-term approach to be qualified for the general labor market. Yes, I believe the modules are there. They are great. You can use them quite well. But regularity and that it's used for a longer period of time so that it becomes normal and standard, that would be a good thing. And it's a different program for the general labor market. They're talking about Word and Excel probably. So further development would be possible. What do you think? I think Mr. Tito will possibly talk about that. What's the development potential of this platform? But it's only natural. The topics or the possibilities are basically unlimited. Any issues, be it vocational qualification, workshop issues, for all of those, you can create digital education programs and then have them come into the everyday experience. So really, the potential is growing every single day, and that's the advantage of digital media. You can scale them. So for each and every subject, you can provide a digital solution. Only to this end, it requires accessibility. So I think in an ideal case, digital education should be accessible for the workshops in every area so that Depending on the topics, you can simply go and get a tablet and integrate that into your everyday work. I believe that would be a further development, not just having individual classes. Well, great. So that was the end of it. It was just a very short round table. Thank you so much. Thank you to our participant here. And we wanted to get a short impression. And now we have Mr. Tidau, who will present further developments. And then we have one final round. Thank you.
Vielen Dank.